All right. So this is going to be my last live for today. And I did 3 lives because I wanted to discuss 3 different issues separately. I didn't want to get them convoluted, but these are things that I've been just really meditating on all week. So I want to talk about them. So this is the last one that I want to talk about. I'm not going to make this a long live, but over the last several months, I've been really watching and thinking, paying attention to the way that African American women and African American men move, and paying attention to the distrust that African American women and African American men have for one another. It's like they don't want to be apart, can't function together, right? And I hear women say all the time that they don't need a man and that men are no good. They don't trust a man, things like that. And I hear men say all the time that the women ain't no good. They don't trust the women and they're only good for sex, right? So I see everything through the lens of the Most High. I try to see everything biblically. And one thing I realize is the way that African American men and the way that African American women treat each other is symptoms. They're just symptoms. If you get pollen in your nose, you're going to sneeze. You get pollen in your eyes are going to run. If your body is fighting off a virus, you're going to feel feverish. Those are symptoms to let you know that there's a bigger sickness at hand. It's to put you on alert that, hey, something is going on. But oftentimes we focus on the symptoms. We don't deal with the actual sickness. Okay. Now, the true cause of it, well, let me discuss this some more. With African American women, most African American women feel, for whatever reason, they project the need to be in control. They project the need to be in control because no woman really wants to have to be the provider, make the decisions, all of those things. When you see a woman to a place to where she feels she needs to do that, that's a protective measure. That's not actually something that she's designed and hardwired to do. Do you get what I'm saying? So a woman is not built or designed to be in the role of having all of that weight on her shoulders. She's not. She's actually supposed to be in support of the being that is designed and to be able to withstand all that weight. Okay. When African American women were brought to this country, African American women were brought to this country because African American women were brought to be basically the fuel that keeps feeding the slave economy. It was the engine that made the slave economy work, the African American woman. She was to be a womb, nothing more, nothing less, and a concubine, basically. So she was supposed to be used for sex. They can get labor out of her, but her primary use was for sex, right? And so with that came, you're going to have to reproduce us more slaves. This is what they did to African American women. They were purchased to produce more slaves. And then they put a clause in the law that stated that the children were born into whatever status the woman was already in. So if the mother was a slave, the children were born into slavery. It was not about whether the father was a free man or not. So They also put a condition and said the women could only buy or obtain their freedom by producing 10 fully healthy babies, and this is all without dying. Now, I just want you to understand that even now in modern society, if a woman has a natural birth, there's a lot of risk to her health. Being in labor is I've never been in labor before, but for women, it's very close to death. The slightest thing go wrong, and she could die in childbirth, right? So you had, even back then with primitive medical advances, women being told that in order for them to have their freedom, they had to birth 10 children. And on top of all that, the children didn't belong to them. So there is a correlation between a lot of African American women nowadays seeing their children as a tool for their survival in retrospect to the past. So we can sit here and we can blame African American women all day long, but they didn't do it. They didn't do it to themselves. They didn't take on that mantra. And there's a detachment that she had to have in order to survive herself, for her children. And the men were just, what's the word I'm looking for? The men were, she didn't have a say over who she wanted to be with. It was the masters. So this is what happened to African American women. African American men were brought here to be labor and seed, possibly, for the African American woman. But they didn't really care about who impregnated the African American woman. It didn't matter if the baby was half white. It didn't matter if the baby was black or African. The seed, the offspring went the way of what the mother did. So even if she gave birth, the child belonged to the state. Now, I said that, and I'm going to say this. When African American women and African American men were brought to this country, there was a systematic deprogramming that took place with them. So they stripped them of their nationality. That's why I hate using the term black. But they stripped them of their nationality. They stripped them of their identity, their religion, their faith, their customs. They stripped them of all of those things. So basically, we only want you in body. We don't want your mind. We don't want your soul. We just want you in body. And they told them, these are your functions. This is your function. Your function is to reproduce and to be labor. And we see that nowadays. We see that playing out now. So let's fast forward to now. We see the out of birth wedlock rate in the African American community. Just to say this, African American women and men were not brought to this country to be a companion with each other. Okay? So you had African American women from the Yoruba tribe, from Igbos, the Dinka tribe, to the Massa people, Fulani, Hausa. You had all those people brought from different tribes. And it was not about them coming here and being a family. It was about being a tool for reproducing for the masters. All right, black men and women, African American women and women. They didn't care. They didn't bring them here to be companions with one another. They didn't bring the African woman here to be a companion to the African American man, and they didn't bring the African American man to be a companion to the woman. Okay, they brought the woman here to be a concubine to the white man. They brought the man here to be a tool to the white man. They brought, and to be reproduced in slavery. So, but what happened was, after slavery, we continued to operate the way that we were designated. Okay. We were all black, which they just determined us by our color. And so what we did is that we banded together, the African American woman and African American man, and we say we're going to make a community unto ourselves. Many people don't actually understand how tribes actually get made, because we're not a tribe. We could be a tribe. We could be a tribe, but we're not one. Okay. And I go into it in a different video, what makes a tribe. But we started to come together as a tribe after Reconstruction, or during Reconstruction, after Reconstruction, and prior to the 60s. We were all coming together as a tribe. We know about Black Wall Street. That was an African American win. We were becoming one tribe. Okay? So, but that's not the case anymore. But I'm not gonna get into that. But here's the thing. One thing that I can say one thing, but one of the more pivotal things what they did to the Black woman, to the African American woman, and to the African American man is that they stripped her from the protection, the guidance, and the leadership of the African American man. Right? They only made him labor. That was it. And a tool to reproduce. That's it. But there are a lot of components when it comes to being a man. There's a lot of things that a man brings to his family. He brings safety, he brings security, he brings protection. All right. So he also brings order and structure. So I know my people are the Massa people, and I know my wife's people are the Yoruba people. And I got Yoruba in me too. But anyway, the custom of the Yoruba, I'm just going to use the custom of the Yoruba because I'm more familiar with that with the Massa than the Massa. But the custom of the Yoruba is when you go to take a wife, if like for me, I seen my wife and we met, we talked, and we wanted to be together. That couldn't become official. Do you hear what I'm saying? Until we went through her father, which is uncle. We had to go through Uncle Afalabi, right? And when we did that, that was a formal introduction. Now, Uncle, at that time, if he would have told her, no, you cannot be with him, we couldn't be together. You know what I'm saying? That's the authority and the respect that the father is supposed to command within an African family. And it's given that for a variety of reasons, but one is to protect the daughter. Is to make sure that they're going to pair up with someone and the marriage is going to be long-standing. And there's going to be children being produced. And there's going to be wealth being built. So the father will oftentimes go and vet the family. The families would meet, they would talk, they would sit down. It was never just, I like you, you like me, or we love each other. It was never just that. That in itself lies the problem. And that is the true reason why the out of birth wedlock rate within foundational Black community is out of control. Because the man and his authority is not respected. The things that he brings into place, there's no culture there that the man can instill. Even if men in their homes now say, I don't approve, in most cases, the daughters will go against them. Now, here's a common misconception that most African American people think. In Africa, the legal age, most people don't think in Africa that you can legally get married at age 18. You can. In Africa, the legal age is 18. Right? So theoretically, the girl and her guy can run away and get married and all that stuff. But they don't do it. They don't do it is because it has to go through the family and then it has to be celebrated through the tribe. Okay? So what we're doing here is just symbolism. We're just doing symbolic things when we are taking our daughters down the aisle and we're just quote unquote giving them away. That's just symbolism. The father is actually supposed to be approving and vetting the family. It is a protective measure for our daughters. It is a protective measure for the family legacy. Okay? So when you strip the African American family of those things, what you get is women that are unprotected. This is how our women are. This is how African American women are unprotected. They're unprotected because they don't have the leadership and the guidance of the African American man in large part. And then the African American men are effeminate. Let me say that one more time. They are raised to be men only in strength and physicality, not in mentality and culture building. So you have a bunch of adult males that lack the ability to set and bring order. You have a bunch of adult males that lack the ability to make quality, intelligent, sound, mature decisions. They lack the ability to be able to guide. This is what you have from African American men. So when you have the father has been removed, then once you remove the father, you have access to the daughters and the sons, and you could indoctrinate them how you see fit. You're going to get what is being bred. Now, there's a lot of misconceptions and there's a lot of misnomers out there. African American men are not just creating babies outside of wedlock and forsaking them. That's not what's happening. But that's not the issue at hand here. The issue is why, regardless, is the out of birth wedlock rate so high? And it's that way not because women just want to be hoes, because every woman wants to be loved. I don't give a care who people say it. And I do think there's an element, there's a good part of it is that the thought culture has been promoted. So they've told women it's okay for you to be promiscuous, and it's not. They're not telling women the truth that in the end that you're going to lose. Do you get what I'm saying? So you have to do the things that you're doing within the boundaries and the context of a family structure. But anyway, I just wanted to make that quick point. Thank you guys for tuning in, and I'll talk to you guys later. And God bless. Shalom.